It started with a rattle, a soft, plastic rattle in the dark. Somewhere around 2:47 a.m., I was woken up by this faint clinking sound, like someone gently shaking a bottle of Tic Tacs just outside the bedroom door. My wife, Celeste, was fast asleep beside me, curled up like a comma. I listened harder. It wasn't the pipes, not the cat, and not the wind. Our house doesn't creak like that. I got up, barefoot, walked through the hall in silence. Kitchen light, off. Living room, empty. But there it was again. Rattle, rattle, pause. It was coming from her purse, just sitting there on the coffee table like it always does. Except it wasn't open when we went to bed. Now the zipper was halfway undone. And inside, glowing under the faint refrigerator hum, was a prescription bottle. Unlabeled. No cap. One pill sitting outside the bottle, like it had tried to escape. And I swear to God, the thing was warm when I touched it. I didn't open it right away. I put it back, zipped the purse, went back to bed. I laid there for hours, pretending I hadn't just found something that didn't belong. By sunrise, she was already in the kitchen, making tea, humming like nothing had happened. I watched her stir honey into the mug. Same rhythm, same sleepy eyes, same old robe with the frayed sleeves. But I knew. That bottle hadn't been there before. I know that purse like the back of my own hand. I buy her gum, refill her lotion, even toss out the receipts she hoards in there like nesting material. That bottle wasn't there yesterday, and it wasn't hers. You have to understand, I'm not some genius. I'm not brave. I cry during car commercials. I've apologized to furniture for bumping into it. But that morning, something cracked. I waited until she went for her walk. She always leaves her phone. Says she hates being tracked. Cute, right? The second the door closed, I opened the purse again. This time, I took the whole bottle out. There were 6 white pills. No markings. No numbers. Just smooth, oval shapes like they'd been polished. They didn't feel like regular medication. They were cold. Not room temperature. Like they'd been refrigerated. Or buried. Still no label. Just a thin line of tape across the side with a handwritten initial. D. That's not her name. It's not mine. It's not anyone I know. Just D. So I did what any pathetic, nervous, bug-eyed husband would do. I swapped them. Not all of them, just 4. I kept the original ones in a Ziploc bag under the basement stairs. Don't judge me. In their place, I put identical-looking herbal supplements I crushed and reformed using a pill press kit I ordered during lockdown when I thought I'd start a wellness brand. It never took off. I needed to see what would happen. Would she take them? Would she notice? Would she say anything? She didn't. That night, she went to bed early. Said she had a stress migraine. She never has migraines. At 3:12 a.m., I woke up again. Not to a rattle this time. To a laugh. Low. Raspy. Coming from the hallway. I thought maybe it was the TV. She sometimes falls asleep watching old crime shows. But the TV was off. She wasn't in bed. Her purse was gone. So was the bottle. That's when the text started. From an unknown number. No words. Just images. A blurry photo of our front door. A picture of me, taken from outside our bedroom window. A photo of the pills. The real ones. Laid out on our welcome mat. Arranged in a perfect circle. My heart nearly exploded out of my chest. The final text? D doesn't like games. I didn't go to work the next morning. I couldn't. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, and every noise in the house made me flinch. Celeste acted normal. Almost too normal. Like she was rehearsing being fine. She brewed coffee, watered her plants, scrolled through her phone. She didn't mention the missing pills, didn't mention her purse, and didn't ask why I looked like I'd seen a ghost. She just hummed. That same little off-key tune she hums when she's thinking. By noon, she said she was going to run errands. That meant she'd be gone for at least 2 hours. The moment her car backed out of the driveway, I grabbed my phone and opened the unknown number from last night. I thought maybe I could trace it, maybe find something. The messages were still there, but the photos were gone. Just empty gray bubbles. No sender info. No timestamps. Like they'd been erased from both ends. I swear I didn't imagine them. I can still see the picture of the pills in that perfect circle, laid out on our welcome mat like an offering. And that last message, D doesn't like games. I could still hear it echoing in my head. I went downstairs to the basement. The air down there was damp, musty, colder than usual. I reached behind the pipes where I'd hidden the bag with the original pills. Only it wasn't there. The bag was gone. I tore through boxes, old paint cans, the shelves, nothing. I started thinking maybe she found them. Maybe she realized I'd switched them. Maybe she was testing me back. I was still digging around when I heard the garage door. She was home early. I froze. Celeste called down the stairs. "Clint, you down there?" Her voice sounded wrong. Too smooth. Like someone pressing play on a recording of her. I told her I was fixing the water heater. She laughed, a short, sharp little sound that didn't match the words that came after. "Oh good. It's been acting strange, hasn't it?" She didn't come down, but I heard her footsteps pacing above me, slow and deliberate. Then, the front door opened. Closed. Silence. I went up after a few minutes, careful, listening. The house was empty again. Her keys were gone. But there was something sitting on the kitchen counter. A small folded piece of paper. My name on it. Inside, written in her handwriting, except shakier, uneven, was a note. "Stop touching what isn't yours." That night, I didn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept hearing the sound from the night before. That low, rasping laugh. I kept telling myself it couldn't be real. Maybe I was having a breakdown. Maybe the pills weren't even what I thought. Around 1:30 a.m. Someone knocked on the door. 3 slow knocks. Heavy. I froze halfway out of bed. Celeste didn't move. I whispered her name. Nothing. I walked to the window. No car in the driveway. No one on the porch. Just fog, thick and still. I grabbed the baseball bat I keep behind the door and waited. Another knock. This time, it came from the back of the house. Then silence. And then, the front door handle started to turn. Not rattling. Not forcing. Turning, like whoever it was had a key. I lunged forward and threw the deadbolt. My heart was pounding so hard I could taste blood in my mouth. I called out, "Who's there?" No answer. Just a long scrape, metal on wood, and then nothing. I checked every window, every lock, everything. No sign of anyone. But when I finally turned around to head back to bed, I saw something that made my stomach twist. Her purse. It was sitting on the kitchen counter again, even though she'd taken it with her earlier. And poking out of it, just barely, was the pill bottle. Only this time, it wasn't empty. It was full, completely full, with black pills. There was a sticky note stuck to it, written in the same uneven scrawl as before. "D says this is the last warning." I didn't touch it. I couldn't. I just sat there at the kitchen table until the sun came up, staring at it, waiting for her to come downstairs. When she did, she looked at me like she didn't recognize me. "Clint," she said softly, "why did you change the locks?" I hadn't. At least, not consciously. I spent that entire morning watching her like she was a stranger who had stolen my wife's skin. Celeste moved like her. She smiled like her. But the pauses between her words were just slightly too long. The way she blinked, too slow. Her laugh, her posture, the way she poured orange juice. It was all off by seconds, like she was performing a delay. I kept quiet. Just watched. She didn't mention the pills on the counter. Didn't acknowledge the sticky note. It was as if the bottle wasn't there at all. When I asked her, "Did you sleep okay?" she tilted her head like a confused dog and said, "Yes, I dreamed in circles." Dreamed in circles? I don't even know what that means. She kissed my cheek and said she was going to visit her sister. Celeste doesn't have a sister. She's an only child. I know this because I was there when we buried both her parents, and I held her when she cried for hours, whispering, "I'm all that's left." But that morning, she slid into her coat, grabbed the purse again, and told me, "Don't wait up, Clint. The fog's going with me this time." And then she left. I should have followed her. I almost did. But I couldn't move. I just stood there, still barefoot, staring at the bottle again. The black pills were gone. Just gone. Not spilled, not moved, just vanished. I checked every trash bin, every cabinet, the basement. Nothing. So I did something I'm not proud of. I drove to the local library because I didn't want to search from home, not with whatever this was possibly watching me. I pulled up obscure forums, medical logs, even dark web threads I had to use Tor to access. I searched every combination of symptoms, every keyword: black pills, unlabeled prescriptions, initials on tape, missing time, identity distortion. One result: a post from a Romanian message board dated 2014. Translated roughly, it said, "When they want to borrow a body, they leave you pills. Never take the fourth one. Never touch the initials. And never watch them when they switch back." Switch back? I didn't even know what that meant. By the time I got home, the sky was already bleeding orange. Her car was in the driveway. Inside, the house was dark. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. I found her sitting in the dining room. The lights were off, but she was staring at the wall like it was showing her something only she could see. A candle was lit. Just one. And beside it, something that made me stop cold. My wedding ring, the one I hadn't taken off in 10 years, lying on the table. But my hand was bare. I hadn't even noticed. I whispered, "Celeste." She didn't respond. Her lips were moving, but no sound came out. I took a step closer, and she turned her head without moving her shoulders. I've never seen a human being do that. Not fluidly. Not like that. Her voice came out too deep, like she was underwater. "You returned the bottle," she said. That was polite. I couldn't speak. My mouth was dry as dust. "But you didn't return what was taken." Then she stood up, walked over to me, and placed something into my palm. It was the photo from the unknown number, the one of me sleeping. Except now it was printed on heavy paper, framed with twine, and smeared with something dark across the corners. Ink, maybe, or something worse. "Do you remember," she said softly, her face close to mine, "what you promised under the floor?" "What floor?" I whispered, but she was already walking away, vanishing into the hallway. I followed her. Of course I did. But the hallway didn't end. I know this sounds insane, but it just kept going. Door after door. My house isn't that big, but in that moment, it felt like a hotel corridor you see in nightmares. Too long, too narrow, fluorescent lights flickering at intervals that made no sense. When I finally opened one of the doors, I didn't find a bedroom or a bathroom. I found a staircase, leading down, and something, breathing at the bottom of it. I didn't want to go down those stairs. I swear to you, I didn't want to. Every part of me was screaming to shut the door, to back away, to pretend like I hadn't just discovered a hallway that didn't exist in my house 5 minutes ago. But something about the way it pulled at the air, that heavy, humming gravity, made it feel like I'd already started falling, even before my foot hit the first step. It wasn't a normal stairwell. It wasn't built like anything I've ever seen. The walls were jagged, not wood or drywall, but almost like stone, earth. They pulsed gently, like they were breathing, and the air was thick with the smell of something metallic and wet. There were no lights, but I could see. Somehow, like the darkness was giving just enough back for me to descend, slowly, cautiously, with my hand grazing along the vibrating wall. And below, somewhere far below, I could hear it. The breathing. Long, slow, deliberate. It wasn't animal. It wasn't human, either. It was the kind of sound your bones recognize before your ears do. I knew that whatever was down there, it wasn't surprised I had come. It had expected me. By the time I reached the bottom, I was sweating through my shirt. The room I stepped into wasn't large, but it felt infinite, like it stretched sideways and backwards into spaces my mind wasn't built to map. And right there, in the middle, was a chair. Old, wooden, unmoving. And in that chair was me. No, not a mirror. Not a hallucination. Not a trick of the light. There was another me, sitting perfectly still, eyes open, staring dead ahead with a blank expression. Same haircut. Same scar under the chin. Even the same faded hoodie I thought I'd thrown away last year. I don't remember walking closer, but suddenly I was standing in front of it, in front of me. My voice, or its voice, spoke first. "You're late." I almost fell backwards. It wasn't like hearing an echo. It was like the words were formed inside my skull and then echoed out. "What are you?" I managed to choke out. "You're looking at what you left behind." It smiled, but it wasn't my smile. It was too wide, too knowing. Every time you swap something, you give up something. You return the pills, Clint, but not the promise. I was shaking. I didn't make any promise. The figure cocked its head. "You did. Beneath the floor. When you opened the bottle, you invited him." "Him?" It didn't answer. Suddenly, I heard footsteps above. Slow, heavy, measured. And then, Celeste's voice, calling from upstairs. "Clint, it's time. He's here." The thing in the chair began to laugh. But not like a person, like something trying to remember what laughing sounded like. It was glitchy, mechanical. "Wrong. You should go back up," it said. "You're the guest now." I turned to run. But the stairs weren't there anymore. Instead, there was only a ladder. And it was covered in the same sticky black residue that had been smeared across the photograph. I didn't think. I just climbed. I climbed until my hands bled. I climbed until the air got colder and the pressure in my ears popped like I was surfacing from the bottom of the ocean. When I reached the top, I was in my living room. Everything was exactly as I had left it. Except, Celeste was gone. The candle was still burning in the dining room, but there was no trace of her. Not even the sound of footsteps. Not her coat. Not her phone. Nothing. And in her place, on the coffee table, was the framed photo again. The one of me sleeping. But now, both versions of me were in the bed, sleeping side by side. One facing the ceiling, the other facing me. There was a sticky note on the frame. D likes this version better. You're excused. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't, because when I ran to the bathroom and looked in the mirror, I wasn't blinking right. Not anymore. For the next 3 days, I didn't sleep. Not really. I'd close my eyes and feel like I was being watched through them. That might not make sense, but that's the best way I can describe it. It wasn't just nightmares. It was like someone else was dreaming through me. Every time I woke up, I had the same taste in my mouth, rust and sugar, like old pennies soaked in syrup. The house was different now, too. Little things. The photos on the wall. I noticed our wedding picture had changed. I was still in it, but my smile was wrong. Too many teeth. My eyes looked off-center. My bow tie, it was red. I've never worn a red bow tie in my life. I remember clearly, I wore navy blue that day. I picked it out myself. My best man joked it made me look like a lost magician. But the photo said otherwise. And it wasn't just the one in the hallway. I checked the album in the bedroom drawer, all the same. Slightly shifted poses. People in the background I didn't recognize. And in 2 of them, there was a tall man standing near Celeste's side. Not smiling. Not posing. Just standing. Watching her. He was in the shadows. Wearing a black suit. Face mostly obscured. But here's the worst part. He was in more photos than I was. On the 3rd day, I finally worked up the nerve to look at our wedding video. We had a DVD copy stored in an old CD case under the TV. I remember we used to watch it on anniversaries, even just to laugh at how awkward our first dance was. It was cheesy, low-res, but ours. Only when I played it this time, it was different. It didn't open with us walking down the aisle. It started with Celeste, alone, walking into a dimly lit room that I didn't recognize. No guests, no flowers, just her, in the dress, standing before what looked like a stone altar. And the man in the black suit? He was standing beside her. The camera was fixed. No movement. No zooms or pans. It was like security footage. Celeste spoke something I couldn't make out. Not English. Not anything I recognized. She looked directly at the lens at one point and smiled. And then she reached down and placed something on the altar, the pill bottle. The same orange one from her purse. The camera glitched. Froze. Then resumed. Now she was wearing my face. And the man in the suit was placing a ring on her finger. That's when I ripped the disc out and threw it against the wall. It didn't break. It just bounced. Once, and landed upright on the floor, as if mocking me. I called every videographer we'd ever spoken to. Our original guy, Chris, had moved to Michigan. When I finally got a hold of him, I asked if he still had the raw footage. He hesitated. Said he didn't remember ever shooting our wedding. Said he hadn't been working weddings that year at all. Said he had no idea who I was. But he remembered Celeste. Oh yeah, he said, voice lowering. That woman. She contacted me a few years ago, but not for a wedding. Something else. Some kind of ceremonial shoot. I don't normally do that kind of work. What kind of ceremony? I asked. He went quiet for several seconds, and then hung up. I tried calling back. Straight to voicemail. And then, not 30 seconds later, I got a new text from the same unknown number. Just 5 words. Stop looking into the wedding. That was it. Nothing else that day. No footsteps. No pills. Just silence. Until I woke up at 4:11 a.m. to find my own body sitting at the edge of my bed. Not dreaming. Not metaphor. Me. Same haircut. Same scar. Same pajamas. Just sitting there, facing away, looking down at the floor. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. But then it turned its head, only slightly, and said in my exact voice, "You said till death do us part." Then it stood up, walked to the closet, and stepped inside. I jumped up, threw the closet open, but it was empty. No clothes disturbed. No other exits. Just the dark, hollow quiet of wood and hanging jackets. I didn't go back to bed. I couldn't. I sat up in the kitchen with every light on, watching the door, watching the window, listening for footsteps, listening for a knock. But none came. Only one more text. From that same number. One of you is fake. Try to guess which. I started keeping notes. Not on my phone. Not on my laptop. Those aren't safe anymore. I write everything by hand now, in an old spiral notebook with duct tape over the cover. I've hidden 3 decoys around the house, but the real one? It's buried under the ash pit behind the garage, wrapped in plastic and stuffed into a rusted metal lunchbox I found in the attic. Because now, I'm not just watching her, I'm watching myself. And I don't know which one of us is slipping faster. 2 nights ago, I caught Celeste standing in the hallway outside the bedroom at 3:28 a.m. Completely still. Lights off. No sound. I only noticed her because I got up to use the bathroom and felt like someone had sucked the air out of the room. She didn't flinch when I stepped into the hallway. Didn't blink. She just stood there facing the wall, whispering something so low I couldn't make out the words. I said her name. She didn't react. I touched her shoulder, gently. She turned around slowly and smiled like a child trying to mimic what they think a smile should look like. Then she said, "Did you know you sleep with your fists closed?" I didn't respond. "Like you're trying to keep something in," she added. The next morning, she made pancakes. Just like nothing happened. She wore my college hoodie, the gray one with the faded logo and the coffee stain on the sleeve. I hadn't seen it in years. I asked her where she found it, and she told me it had always been hers. That I must be remembering things backwards again. Backwards. That word stuck with me all day. Later that afternoon, I found my toothbrush wet, even though I hadn't used it since the night before. And there were small red hairs in the sink. Celeste's hair is jet black. Mine is brown. The hairs in the sink were a deep red, almost copper. That night, I set up an old camcorder on the bookshelf across from the bed. Not a smart device, just a dusty, clunky Sony from the 2000s with a cracked screen. I loaded a fresh tape and aimed it at where I sleep. Just to see. Just to know. When I checked the footage the next morning, I sat frozen on the edge of the bathtub for almost an hour, unable to press stop. The tape showed me sleeping. Alone. The room dark. Nothing out of the ordinary for the first 2 hours. But then, at 2:46 a.m., the frame glitched. Just for a second. Like a skip. And suddenly, there were 2 people in the bed. One was me. The other was her, but not Celeste. This version of her had no eyebrows. Her face was blank, like someone had carved away all the details. Her skin shimmered slightly, like oil slick in moonlight. She didn't move, didn't breathe. She just lay there, staring directly into the camera. And slowly, so slowly I almost didn't catch it, she began to mimic my breathing. 1 beat behind, like she was learning it. I stopped the tape, threw it back in the box, locked it up. That same day, I noticed the calendar had changed. Not just the date, the year. It now read 2011. Handwritten. The entire calendar had been replaced with a printed version from over a decade ago, yellowed at the edges. And every Sunday was marked with a red X. I confronted Celeste that evening. Asked her point blank if she'd been in my closet, if she'd changed the calendar, if she remembered what year it was. She looked up from the kitchen sink, a knife still in her hand, and said, "It's whatever year you say it is, Clint." Then she added, "But your mother called earlier. She said she misses 2009. My mom died in 2014. She never knew Celeste. She never liked that name. In fact, she told me once, that girl's name sounds like a warning. I hadn't thought about it in years. Until now. That night, I stayed awake with the lights on. Every single one. Even the garage. I sat in the living room gripping the notebook, listening to the walls settle and the wind press against the house like something outside wanted in. And around 4 a.m., I heard the sound again. The rattle. The same plastic rattle that started everything weeks ago. I followed it into the laundry room. And there, sitting atop the dryer, was the pill bottle. Not orange this time. Glass. Frosted. Sealed with wax. And inside, floating like a memory preserved in amber, was a tooth. Human. Still bleeding. Taped to the bottle was another note. She needs 1 more to finish the shape. Sleep soon. I left the house. Got in my car. Drove until the sun came up. I didn't have a destination, just miles and panic and the growing certainty that if I stayed, I wouldn't leave again. I pulled into a gas station 3 towns over. I looked in the bathroom mirror, and for the first time, the reflection didn't copy me right away. It hesitated. Just a second. Just enough. I haven't been back to the house in 2 days. I'm writing this from a roadside motel that smells like old glue and burned coffee. The wallpaper is curling. The bed creaks if I breathe too hard. The only other car in the parking lot has no plates and hasn't moved since I checked in. I haven't seen the driver. I don't want to. I'm not sure what day it is. My phone won't connect to a network anymore. Time feels soft, like a suggestion, not a rule. I've started keeping track by scratches on the motel nightstand. There are 6, I think. Last night, I tried to call my brother. He lives out in Utah. I haven't spoken to him in almost 2 years, not since the falling out over Mom's will. I figured if anyone would believe me, or at least answer the phone, it'd be him. I dialed his number from the motel landline, hands trembling, heart beating like a metronome from madness. It rang twice. Then someone answered. But it wasn't him. It was me. Not a recording. Not a glitch. My own voice said, calmly and clearly, "I've already told you not to run." I didn't speak. I couldn't. The voice on the other end waited a few seconds, then said, "She's almost finished wearing your name. Don't ruin it now." Click. I yanked the phone from the wall, threw it against the floor. It didn't break. Of course it didn't. It just sat there, the receiver dangling, the dial tone gone. After that, I locked the door, bolted the windows, pushed the dresser in front of the sliding glass patio door, even though it hadn't opened since the Nixon administration. Then I turned on every light and sat in the corner, facing the mirror over the sink, just to keep my reflection where I could see it. Around 3:20 a.m., the lights flickered. Not once. Not the usual buzz of a dying bulb. It was rhythmic, pulsing, almost like code. I started filming on my camcorder, the same one I used to catch her the other night, and kept it pointed at the door. I whispered to myself, quietly, over and over, "You're still Clint. You're still Clint. You're still Clint." The lights stopped flickering around 3:47 a.m. That's when I heard it. My own voice. Again, whispering from inside the bathroom. I crept closer, heart beating so hard I thought it might snap my ribs from the inside. I peeked into the mirror, and there he was. My reflection, smiling. But I wasn't. I backed away slow, sat on the floor, tried to breathe. Then came the knock. Not at the front door, not at the windows, at the closet. The small, narrow, motel room closet I hadn't opened since I got there. I approached it, each step like walking through tar. I reached for the knob. It was warm, too warm. I pulled the door open with a single sharp motion. Inside, my hoodie, the gray college one, hanging neatly on a hanger. I hadn't packed it. I knew I hadn't packed it. Inside the pocket was the glass pill bottle. Same one, wax sealed, no label. But the tooth inside had changed. It was now a molar, and etched into the root in tiny, unnatural lines was a word. Home. I dropped it. It didn't shatter. It didn't even bounce. It simply vanished. Gone the second it touched the carpet. I didn't sleep. I sat with the camcorder running all night, pointed at my face, making sure I stayed me, watching for any twitch, glitch, or shift. When the sun finally came up, I rewound the tape. I didn't remember blinking 4 times in a row, every 11 seconds. But the man on the tape did. Exactly. Perfectly. Consistently. Until, at 1 hour and 14 minutes into the footage, he blinked 5 times. And smiled. I turned off the tape. I walked to the bathroom. I looked into the mirror again, and this time, the reflection spoke first. "You're doing great." Then it reached forward and tapped my side of the mirror. 3 times. I left the motel at dawn. The sky was a soft, sick yellow, and the air felt like something was about to end, or maybe begin. I hadn't slept in 2 days. My head was a fog of half memories and mismatched timelines. But something had changed inside me overnight. Maybe it was the mirror. Maybe it was the 5th blink. Or maybe it was just that I'd finally stopped running. There's a point where fear turns into clarity. When everything breaks so hard, it stops hurting. I hit that point somewhere along a back road lined with dead cornfields and half-burnt telephone poles. I pulled the car over and screamed into the silence. Not out of panic this time, but defiance. I screamed my name. My real name. I screamed facts. I was born on January 12, 1986. My first pet was a cat named Murphy. I chipped my front tooth in 5th grade. I fell in love with Celeste during a rainstorm in junior year. I liked chocolate milk and hated loud chewing. My mother used to rub circles on my back when I cried. Each truth came out like an exorcism. And with every word, I felt that thing inside me, the slithering doubt, the mirrored double, the other Clint, start to weaken. So I went back to the house. It was still there, but quieter, like it was holding its breath. I walked in through the front door and called her name. Not yelling, not trembling, just firm, calm. Celeste. She stepped out from the hallway, wearing the hoodie, holding the glass bottle. But something was different. Her eyes weren't hollow this time. Her movements weren't delayed. She looked tired, human. You remembered, she whispered, almost like it hurt her to say it. No one ever does. I nodded. I never forgot. She stepped closer and held the bottle between us. The wax seal was broken. Inside, where the tooth used to be, was something else now. A small piece of paper, folded 6 times. She handed it to me. I opened it. It was our wedding vow. My original, handwritten version. The one I'd written the night before the ceremony and never gave her, because I got scared it was too sentimental. It read, I promise to love you even when I don't understand you. To find you, even if I forget myself. And if I ever lose you, I'll walk through fire until I remember the way back. I looked up, and Celeste, the real Celeste, had tears in her eyes. I didn't want this, she said. But I had to let them in. I didn't know how to stop them. They said they'd take you unless I gave them a version. I stepped forward and took her hand. You don't have to protect me anymore, I said. We fight together now. The house trembled, not violently, but like something real was being shaken loose. The mirrors cracked. The lights blinked in patterns that didn't feel threatening anymore. Just fading, releasing. In the living room, the wedding photo flickered once, then returned to normal. My real bow tie, her real smile. No shadowy figures, no extra guests. We buried the bottle in the backyard, burned the hoodie, and when the wind passed through the trees, it didn't whisper anymore. It sighed. That night, we slept in the same bed for the first time in weeks. No cameras, no pills, just us, holding hands. And when I looked in the mirror the next morning, it blinked when I blinked. Not 1 second later, not 1 second before, just me.